Hey there everybody, welcome to 2-3, solving two-step and multi-step equations. We're going to break this section up into two parts. So today's video will just cover two-step equations, and then the next video will talk about multi-step equations. So hopefully by the end of this video you'll be able to solve two-step equations. Now two-step equations are exactly like they sound. They're equations with two steps. In the first two sections we did multi-step equations, one-step equations, which were pretty much a review from the previous years. Now with two-step equations, you did these a little bit last year, but you didn't spend a lot of time on them. So this should be somewhat new to you. So the first thing we do with a two-step equation is we identify the operations in the equation. And we did that same thing with one-step equations. We asked what is happening to our variable. And then we have to pay attention to which order they happen. And then the second step is to use inverse operations to undo the operations backwards. Okay? So let's look at some examples here. Again, the very first thing I do is I find my variable. So here's my variable A. And I ask the question, what is happening to A? I'm going to make a little list here of what's happening to A. And yes, I want you to do this when you do your homework. So what's happening to A? Well, the first thing I see is that it's being times by 4. And the second thing I see is that we're adding 10. So that's what's happening to our variable in the order that it's happening. Now to solve this, I need to undo these operations in the opposite order. So I'm going to undo plus 10 first. So the opposite of plus 10 is minus 10. So let's go ahead and subtract 10 from both sides. So 18 minus 10 is 8. Still have 4a over here, and then 10 minus 10, that's 0, that cancels out. So I have 8 equals 4a. Then the next thing I have to undo is times 4. Now we learned in section 2 that the opposite of times 4 is divide by 4. So that's going to be my next step. Divide by 4, divide by 4, and I figure out that A is 2. Okay? So two-step equations, as you can see, we minus 10 and then we divide it. There's our two steps. Let's look at another one. So again, the first thing I do, I find my variable. Here it is. Here's t. So what's happening to t? Well, it's being times by 5 and minus 2. So again, I want to undo these in the opposite order. So opposite of minus 2, plus 2. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Add 2 to both sides. Over here, negative 2 plus 2, that's 0, so that's going to cancel out. Now I have negative 32 plus 2. So remember, when I'm adding numbers with different signs, I subtract them. So 32 minus 2 is 30. And I keep the sign of the bigger number. 32 is bigger, so it's negative. Then I have to undo times 5, which the opposite of timesing by 5 is dividing by 5. So then I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And negative 30 divided by 5 is negative 6. Okay? And this is exactly what I want your work to look like on your homework. Okay? You'll have this kind of work and then your steps over to the side. Now, the next thing we need to talk about is two-step equations that have fractions. Now, these are a little bit more fun. And I'm going to show you two ways to deal with the fractions. Okay? And I'm not expecting that you know both ways. I want you to pick the way that you think is easiest and learn that way. Okay? So you don't have to know both methods. I want you to pick whichever one you think is easiest and then go with that whenever you run into fractions. So the first method is to just solve it exactly like we did the previous examples. Leave the fractions in there and solve. So I have my equation, y over 8 minus 3/4 equals 7/12. Okay? So again, I find my variable. Here it is, y. What's happening to y? Well, y is being divided by 8 first, and then it's being subtracted by 3/4. So to solve this, again, I have to undo these in the opposite order. So the opposite of minusing 3/4 is adding 3/4. So let's go ahead and do that. Plus 3/4 plus 3/4. Now, in order to, first of all, this is going to cancel out. So I just have y over 8. Now in order to add fractions, I have to have a common denominator. So I ask, what do 4 and 12 both go into? Well, hopefully, you're thinking right now, 12. So I need to change this into 12. So I'm going to times each one by 3. So that's 9/12. So then I'm doing 7/12 plus 9/12. That's 16/12. Now I can reduce that, and I go ahead and do that because it'll make my life easier. So if I divide both of these by 4, and again, this is just me reducing, so I probably shouldn't even write that. 16 over 12, if I reduce that, it's 4/3. So then I need to undo dividing by 8. Well, the opposite of dividing is timesing. So I'm going to times both sides by 8. Remember, a whole number is just, if you turn it into a fraction, you put it over 1. So over here, my 8's cancel, I just have y. Over here I got 4 times 8, which is 32. And 3 times 1, which is 3. Okay? So I have 32/3 as my answer. Now, I could leave it like this, or I could put it into a mixed number. So since 32/3 is simplified on its own, I could leave it there, or if you like mixed numbers better, which I know some of you do, that's 10 and 2/3. Okay, so either answer is okay. Now let's look at the same problem, but use our second method. And again, just a reminder, I want you to pick your favorite and use it. Now method 2 is for people who don't really like fractions very much, and they want to get rid of them. So with this, we multiply by the least common denominator to get rid of the fractions. So I'm going to look at my denominators here. I got 8, 4, and 12. And I ask, what do 4, 8, and 12 all go into? What's their least common multiple? Hopefully, you're thinking 12. So when I choose 12, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply every term by 12 over 1. Okay, and this might seem kind of weird, but you'll see in a second why we would do this. So here, I want to, whoa, never mind, hold on. Hopefully you weren't thinking 12, because that's not the right answer. What do 12, 8, and 4 all go into? Let's ask that question again. Hopefully you're thinking 24. I hope. Because that's going to work out much better than 12. Sorry if I confused you there. I just picked the wrong multiple. Okay, now let's try this again. So we'll start with 24 over 1 times y over 8. And I'm going to cross reduce. So 8 goes into 8 one time and into 24 3 times. So 3 times y is 3y. 1 times 1 is 1. I don't have to write that part. Okay, then let's do it with 3/4. Let's times this by 24 over 1. Again, I can cross reduce. So 3 times 6 is 18 over 1. I don't have to write the over 1. And over here, let's see, 12 goes into 12 once, it goes into 24 twice. So 7 times 2 is 14. Now, you can see, by multiplying by the least common denominator, I now have a two-step equation with no fractions, which can be a lot easier. So again, what's happening to y? Well, it's being times by 3 and subtracted by 18. So then to undo that, I'm going to add 18. Let's do that first. So then I have 3y equals 32. And then I'm going to divide by 3. And as you can see, we're going to end up with the same answer, which is good because that means both methods work. And again, I could leave it as 32/3 or 10 2/3. Okay? So those are the two methods. First one, you just treat it exactly like a regular two-step equations. You deal with the fractions. So if you're good at fractions, you're good at adding, subtracting them, multiply, dividing with fractions, this would probably be the method I would use. Okay? But if you see fractions and you get a little scared, you might want to focus on method 2, where you multiply by the least common denominator, and then once you do that, it gets you to a two-step equation with no fractions. Okay? So in your homework, you'll be doing just regular two-step equations and two-step equations with fractions. And again, please pick the method that you like the best and work on that one. Okay, that will probably be the best thing for you to do. We will see you guys tomorrow.